in Elise, Buik, and the United Way of Greater LA, we see that purposeful, positive, and progressive change can result when individuals and organizations make a direct commitment to helping people overcome such daunting conditions and issues as poverty and homelessness. I know it also took and takes considerable guts and considerable courage. So thank you so much, Elise, and the United Way of Greater LA.
Now I would like to invite to the dais, and this is a great honor, multiple award-winning LA Times columnist and newly celebrated author of The Soloist, just released as a movie, a previous PBI honoree, Mr. Steve Lopez.
Thank you very much. They didn't trust me, so they handed me a script. Is this my new student? I have here word for word what I'm supposed to say. I was going to speak from the heart. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Good evening. I'm going to read to you just what it says. I have the honor of introducing tonight's first honoree. Well, should we hold up the suspense? Am I supposed to say it right now? Because the next line says, Elise Buik and the United Way of Greater Los Angeles. In March 2005, Elise made history by becoming the first female president and chief executive officer of the United Way of Greater Los Angeles. Under her leadership, our local United Way raised $59.3 million in its 2007-2008 campaign year. You know, you could have bought the LA Times. And actually, I've been invited here tonight to open bidding. Can we start at $59 million? Or how about $59,000? Do I hear $59,000 for the LA Times? Marc, Ridley-Thomas, can't you find a fund somewhere for us? A personal anecdote. Well, it wasn't that long ago that Elise and I shared a stage down at USC for the homeless walk. And I was honored to have been invited there and spoke about some of the things I've learned in the last 4 years since I met Mr. Nathaniel Anthony Ayers, not far from here, in fact, across the street. He was at Pershing Square playing a two-string violin, living out of a shopping cart. And when I asked why he was there, he pointed across the street and said, there's the Beethoven statue, and I play here for inspiration. What I've learned is that there are thousands of Nathaniels, that they didn't necessarily all go to Juilliard, but everybody out there has a story, that so many of the people, those 80,000 that I just mentioned, are dealing with a mental illness. They're people who we've asked to go off to war, and many have returned broken spiritually, physically, mentally, and it doesn't make sense that people have made that sacrifice, living on the streets of Skid Row or living on the streets of Santa Monica, a mile or so from abandoned medical buildings at the VA property. We know what works, and one of the things I'd like to say here in my minute or two is that you can be so overwhelmed by the challenges. You can look out there and see Skid Row and think to yourself, well, there's just no way. Even if we knew what worked, how would we ever gather the resources and make it happen? And Elise is somebody who knows what works and knows that it can be done. And it's an honor to be able to stand here tonight and recognize she is one of those people who knows that there's a double tragedy. Not just that people are out there on the streets, some of the most vulnerable among us, but that we know how to bring them back in, how to help them rebuild their lives. And it just takes a commitment to proven programs. And that is what Elise is about. For challenging us to help what she calls the new face of poverty, the Pat Brown Institute tonight honors Elise Buik and the United Way of Greater Los Angeles with the 2009 Leadership and Responsibility Award. Please join me in congratulating Elise and the United Way as we welcome her to the stage.
touched that Steve would take the time out of his busy schedule to share those words and thoughts. And this has been an incredible journey, and there's so many people in this room who have helped us to get there. And I really have to thank the staff and the board and Jaime for your leadership at the Pat Brown Institute. And Jaime took me under his wing. I've been in the role now for 4 years. And he has just provided me counsel and advice all along the way. And many of you may know the United Way. You think of us as the thermometer. And Frank, you go back all those years you've been with us, pushing us. And fundraising is still a very important part of what we do. But when we started to look at, this is actually the 10-year anniversary of the Tale of Two Cities this year. And many of you remember that report where we really started to say that there are two Los Angeleses. And our challenge is that as I travel the county, many people in our community do not know that we are the homeless capital. That 60% of our kids are not making it through high school, and that percentage is much higher in our low-income neighborhoods. And that the face of poverty, as Steve says, has changed dramatically. And so it is our quest to get people to understand those issues, because I truly believe we've heard a lot of things that overwhelm us. But the great spirit of this community is how we can come together to tackle those issues. And that has forced the United Way to move into new territory, territory that we actually should have moved into a long time ago. But to really look at these issues and to look at the policy issues that surround them. And I think that speaks to Jaime's move about our courage, is we have been very neutral for many years, and now we know we must take a stand on these issues. And I think that there's no better place in United Way for us to have those spaces where we can bring the sectors together to really work on these issues together and to ignite a new civic movement in this community. And to have Steve Lopez join us on that, I can remember us being on the stage looking out at 5,000 people at our walk to end homelessness, and Marc Ridley-Thomas on the stage with us and the mayor. And we were doing our speeches, and it was time for us to start walking, and Steve got up there and he did a great thing about talking about the homeless, and then he beat up on the county and the city for what they haven't done, which we can always count on Steve to do. But I think that that type of education and understanding and equipping people with their voice and their power for what they can do is so important. So I'm just truly touched tonight. You know, when I think of Pat Brown, I think of his leadership and really having a vision about creating an infrastructure of universities, an infrastructure of highways. And in this, I know we're all, there's a lot of talk about investment and shovel-ready projects. And I think that we may be missing the opportunity to talk about the human investments and the human infrastructure that we must build in this community. And that's what the United Way is dedicated to. And as I was looking for some inspiration in the former governor's comments, there was one quote that really stood out to me and really resonates with me as a mother. And it was, "But here and now we can put our hands to good work. What we do here may not have its full impact on our lives. Our children and their children will be the better judges of what we do." And I think that everyone in this room, we invite you to join with us as we really work to build a better quality of life in this community so that our children will judge us on what we accomplish. Thank you so much for this honor. It really means a lot.